Ladies and gentlemen, I am here with my special guest, Karen Thompson. We're doing Islam in a nutshell. Well, actually, it's what you need to know about Islam. And she's been on the channel before. She's very knowledgeable. She wrote a fantastic reference for anyone who needs to learn about Islam, something that you can buy copies, give to your friends, and it makes it understandable. And of course, what's that in the top right corner? Is that a bird? Is that a plane? No, it is Usama Darkwing Duck, the terror that flaps in the night. And he has agreed to join us, provide his knowledge, his expertise, his many years of study. Of course, he is from Egypt. He understands Islam. He reads the Arabic. He's written his own Quran translation. He has done his own study of the tafsirs, which I do with him every week, and it is slowly killing me. And please, if someone can get me put into the witness protection program, please do that so I can get away from that. I am dying from it. But Karen here has a cure, a solution to how we can introduce our friends to understand Islam, to deal with Islam, to finally deal with the scourge that is Islam. So Karen, we'll start with you. Welcome, and thank you for joining us all the way from Canada.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm glad to be here with the two of you. I just love your Tuesday programs where you're ripping apart the Quran. It's just, and I love how you're doing it. It's lighthearted. It is funny, and you just show the ridiculousness of this book. It's crazy.
It is. And give us a brief talk about what we're going to do today. You just said that you handed out several copies of your author's copy of your book to the guys who helped you move. And, so did they have any comment or feedback on it? Because they said they've been hearing about Islam so much. And I'm seeing a lot of pushback on social media now. I'm seeing political pushback. I'm seeing social media pushback. Yeah. People are educating themselves.
Well, that's just it. People are starting to ask questions, but they don't know where to turn. And, I have a massive library full of books, really excellent books, all sorts of different authors. And most of them are intimidating. And most of the books are intimidating. And kind of, where do you start? So, and that's why I wrote this book. I actually wrote this book because I ran into my principal of the all three of my kids went to a local Christian school, and I ran into him and asked him, this was years after my kids had graduated, and asked what they were teaching, and it was all wrong. It was all just nonsense stuff that they were teaching, and I thought, oh my gosh, absolutely. You guys. So I provided them with some resources, and then thought, I need to, and that's why I developed this cartoon, which I don't know, we can take a peek at that. This is why I developed the cartoon, because I want to, yes, this one here, because of course kids aren't going to sit there and read a book necessarily. So what I've done is I've developed the cartoon. It's not quite ready to go out, and I'm going to take it to the Federation of Independent Christian Schools and say, you guys have got to start teaching this instead. And I've got two modules, one where I go through the standard Islamic narrative out of cartoons. And then the second one is refuting what the standard Islamic narrative said, and sort of more a fun way of introducing Islam, which I think probably would catch the attention of the kids a lot better than, reading a textbook or anything like that. Because right now they're watching videos off of YouTube, and they're all wrong. It's all just propaganda, unfortunately.
Yeah, and we're seeing in schools, you actually have visits to the mosque, and girls are taught how to wear the niqab or the hijab or whatever the case might be, and they're taught how to pray, and this is, and also halal food being forced.
Yep.
This is inappropriate.
It totally is inappropriate. I doubt that any of the local public schools would ever let my material be taught there, because they go off what the National Council of Canadian Muslims, NCCM, which is just a front for CARE. It used to be CARE Canada, and then they changed it to NCCM. I think most of the work, the materials taught in public school has to be approved through them. And of course they're not going to refute the Quran or anything like that. They're just going to show Islam in the best light possible. So I doubt my materials would be allowed there. But I'm trying to make a breakthrough with the independent Christian schools in my area, because, like I say, my kids attended for most of their school year, most of their school term, and so I know the local Christian
I,
schools pretty well.
I think we can be confident we're making progress. I will speak again about something that I was involved in, but we're seeing now political moves. We're seeing so much on the news, but also we're seeing much more intelligent coverage, especially on social media. You find, especially the UK, has now been forced into a situation where they need to learn because of what's happened, the trauma that's happening to the UK, to the children in the UK.
Right.
And you find on large podcasting platforms, you're finding they're speaking about Islam and they're starting to understand. And I find that Sharia has become from a fringe topic that's now
Yes.
being discussed everywhere. Usama, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Always good to have you, except on Tuesdays.
Hey, greetings to you and our dear sister Karen and all our wonderful audience in the name of our Lord and our Savior Jesus Christ. It is my joy to join this wonderful meeting here, to be part of your broadcast for today. And believe it or not, as I look at the covers of Sister Karen's cartoon book, and it say Islam in a nutshell. That took me back 20 years ago, or maybe closer. I don't know, 1822. I don't count numbers. When I say 20, it could be 5 less, 5 more. Only God knows. Anyway, when I went to speak with church leaders, and the lady who is a minister at that church asked me the question, can you give me Islam in a nutshell? All I said, Islam is a savage cult. And she stood up and her face turned from white to red. No kidding. From white to red, pointing with her hand to the door. And she said, out. She actually threw me out of her office, threw me out of her church, just by telling her Islam is a savage cult. God help us. Now, you talk about something else, Sister Karen. Quickly, I'll respond to this and say, I got a text message here just 3 days ago. I can choose a date if you're interested. But it says that a father, it says, I have an urgent question. My son's school is forcing them to watch Islam, a religion of peace, from YouTube. Imagine that. By the way, he went to meet with the head of the school, who insists to have the video, and the students will watch the video, and he's a Christian. The problem, Sister Karen, is the people who are supposed to be leading our children to learn the truth about that savage cult, Islam in a nutshell. They are actually brainwashing them by making them believe Islam to be that loving, peaceful religion. So we're trying hard right now in that school in Minnesota to get my time. Yep, they can teach all their garbage, all their hogwash, all their whatever words you want to put for our children to brainwash them. And we're working hard to get my time to rebuttal these lies with that which is written in the Quran and that which is stated and practiced by Muhammad in the Hadith. And I hope and I pray sometime in the next few days we'll be able to get to Minnesota in that school. If not, after the break, after Christmas break, I will be there to expose all the lies, which sadly our teachers and the top of the leaders of our school are doing with foolishness. Foolishness. Go ahead, Brother Lloyd.
Yes, no, they are. Yeah, the schools are. I mean, it's just like, you hear all this pro-Palestinian marches and pro-Hamas stuff. Well, I just watched a YouTube video that showed that Qatar, or however you pronounce it, has been pumping money in for the last 10, 15 years into all the universities. So no wonder that it's been swayed over. So yeah, what we're doing by talking to the schools and talking to parents and talking to people is and giving them a resource, showing them certain things so that they can learn a bit about it and learn that Islam will only be a religion of peace once they've conquered the entire world, gotten rid of every single other religion, and everything is ruled by Sharia, that is when
But
Islam
sister,
will be a
So
religion.
even within their own
I hate,
lands, there is no
yeah, I
peace.
hate,
No, of
yeah,
course
I
not.
hate to correct you. And that is when Muslims began to kill other Muslims.
Yeah, yeah,
There will never be peace. Islam does not do anything with peace.
no,
It's a strange concept. It goes against the fabric of the ideology of Islam. You will never find a peace in the Quran or a verse in the Quran teach Muslims to love Muslims. It doesn't exist.
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
Right.
and uh, kind of back to people learning about things is I went to my esthetician and I was chatting with her about what I was doing, and she said, "Oh, my boyfriend would love to see that. He fought in Iraq." And I said, "Oh, okay." So next time I saw her, or next day, I dropped a book off for her. Well, she said he absolutely devoured it because she said even though he fought for the Canadian military in Iraq, he did not know very much about Islam, and learning this, and even my quotes about the Sharia, he had no idea. It's the level of ignorance, not willful ignorance, but just the level of uneducated. I don't mean ignorance in a bad way, but just the level of people just don't understand. And Canada especially, we're so tolerant that sure, bring in all of these Syrian refugees, and that we're doing, and but the local people don't know enough about it. But they're
Yeah.
starting to ask. They're definitely starting to ask.
Well, Sister Karen, a good 17 years ago, if I know exactly, we
Mhm.
actually were in Vancouver recording a 12 broadcast, TV broadcast on lies in the textbooks.
Yeah.
And after we finished that entire series, the government in Canada refused to allow this to be broadcast. So we just actually wasted a week and lots of hard work to make this material available as we opened what your textbooks teach in your country, Canada, about Islam and the Muslims. And I guarantee you that these videos are still buried on some shelf in that studio in Canada, in Vancouver. God help us. It's very bad news.
I'd
Yeah.
like to mention that I know people around Europe, because that's where I'm based in
Right.
Poland, and I can tell you that the Poles are very concerned about Islam, even though it's not a factor in their lives right now. But they do have, through Belarus, through Russia, they are trying to obviously send like Pakistani Muslims across the border. Now, some apparently do occasionally cross, and of course, the Poles get rid of them as soon as they do, right? They escort them right back out, right back where they came from. So the
Oh,
Poles are very
good.
concerned. They don't want to happen in Poland what has happened in Germany and France and the rest of Europe in the West. But also in Germany, for instance, there's a lot of pressure from the government to not speak about the problem, to not notice the problem, to not, because you can suffer legal consequences. That you can lose your job for talking about what is blatantly obvious. However, people do talk, and I know people, and they do talk, and they're finding that they're not alone. They're not isolated. So they're finding that others are concerned as well, and they are starting to, shall we say, educate themselves. And the
Mhm.
sentiment is growing. So people should not feel that they're alone. Talk to others. And another very important fact is that when something becomes mainstream knowledge, despite the propaganda that's put out by let's say leftist media or governments that are let's just say not always working in our favor, what is mainstream knowledge is when roughly 10% of a population, not of the whole population, let's say of a given group, when 10% of that group believes something, that is mainstream knowledge. So you just need to speak to and educate 10% of the people around you. Just talk to the people closest to you. You don't have to change the whole country, just look at your immediate group, and
Right.
that information spreads. And once and it is spreading, it is growing. So yes, it's late in the game. Yes, these people have billions of dollars, like you mentioned, Karen. They've been funding universities to the tune of literally billions of dollars. However, we've seen that these efforts do and can fail. So we just have to keep going because the lie is easily exposed. And once it
Yes.
becomes so blatant. When you pour enough sunlight on it, it will collapse. So don't think that you can't do anything. You can just speak about it. Learn to speak about it in a way that's obviously not going to cause you, let's say, huge harm. But there are others. Give people, talk about it, because you'll boost the morale of others, and you will strengthen and fortify your own communities that way.
Right. Yeah. No, I think it is important to talk about it with people. And I know I've been dropped by friends over the years. About 10 years ago, some close people that I'd known for years dropped me because they called me a bigot and a xenophobe and everything for talking about Islam. And I just thought, well, no, I have to talk about it because, you're just being the typical tolerant Canadians. And that was just when
That
I
is so crazy. And here you are with two Africans. Usama, do you realize we are on a stream with a Canadian who is have you noticed any of those weird things that were just mentioned?
I think she needs some medical help, some attention. I don't know.
The people making the accusations need the medical attention. I mean, yeah, look,
Hey,
these criticisms that
you
people make,
cannot.
these fears.
It is the truth, Sister Karen. Here is the truth. If we're gonna do our ministry because we worry about our friends, we disregard Jesus' words, because no
Yeah.
prophet have respect in his own town, in his own family, in his own community, in his own people. That's what Jesus is talking about. So you're doing the right thing, and if you expect the people are gonna clap hands for you, thank you so much for warning us about Islam, for helping us to understand Islam, then you're in the wrong place. We have to expect the opposite of that. And that's exactly what we have to do. I need this clap from him, not from them around me, because
Right.
if I will make them happy, I make him unhappy, and that's not what I want.
Right.
Yeah.
But it is really interesting how people they don't know where to turn to for information. They just don't know where to go, what book to pick up, what book to read, um where to turn. And let's face it, trying to pick up, I've had a couple of people say, well, I went out and bought a Quran and I tried reading that. Well, it's unreadable. That the book is just horrific. It
See,
doesn't make
Usama,
sense.
it is unreadable. Now you're hearing it from someone in Canada. It is
Yeah.
unreadable. And he makes me read it every week, Karen. Every week he makes me do it. And this is
Sorry.
this is this is traumatic. It is harming my psyche.
Well, and that's why you have to make a joke of it, because really that's the only way of getting through it. It's just, oh my
Here's
God.
the truth, Sister Karen. If we do not read the Quran for the Muslims, they will never read it. They
Oh,
have been Muslim for 1460 years, and they never read their book.
yeah, yeah. I know, isn't that the most incredible thing? I know I had a really respectful chat with a local person. I didn't even actually know they were Muslim. Just let you know, I work in a medical office, and of course with the what's it called? The interim federal health plan, they get all their dentistry free. Well, they get tons of stuff free. And I was talking with somebody one day, and I wasn't, I mean, I can't really say very much working in the office, but they made some comment about the Quran, and I said, oh, have you read it? And they say, oh, yeah. And I said, oh, are you part of a Quran study? Do you just sit and study the verses? And they say, no, I read it in Arabic. And I say, oh, so you're fluent in Arabic. And I knew they weren't, because the guy in the office speaks fluent Arabic. And anyways, long story short was, no, of course they don't read it. They just recite it. And I mean, it's not the same as studying the Bible and knowing what's in there. They just don't have, they just don't know.
You want to hear a story to break your heart? You go to a country like Afghanistan, one of the top large Muslim countries in the world after Indonesia.
Mhm.
And if you see how the Muslim people there read the Quran, it will make you cry, not water, but blood. They actually wash their hand, do the wudu, they grab the Quran in this white piece of fabric, and they open it after they sit on the floor with a high respect, and they have the marker, this green or red marker inside the Quran, and they open where they stop reading last time, and they put their finger, this finger here on the right hand, on the beginning of the page where the word Bismillah Rahman Rahim is written, in the name of Allah, the merciful, the merciful, and they move it right to left, and they go to the next line, and the next line they touch the verses of the Quran, right to left, next page, until they come to the new design, because that's going to be a new chapter. And that's when they kiss their finger and they put the marker on the new chapter, and they close the Quran, and they think by touching the Quran in the Arabic language with their finger, they have already been blessed, and they have already read the Quran, and they do not know how to read one word. They read the Quran by their finger.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
Millions of Muslims for the last, I don't know how many hundreds of years Islam was in that country, Afghanistan and Pakistan and the rest of the foreign Muslim world. 87% of the Muslims never read the Quran.
No.
Never read the Quran.
Yeah. And they just don't know what's in it. But, you know, people here in the West, thank goodness for all the translations, which is your book here, which is awesome. Thank goodness for the, so that we can read it and we can know what's in it. I mean, it still is basically unreadable, even translated. It's a tough slog through, you know. But it's not. But the problem is it's not just the Quran. It's other books. Like, Lloyd, you are awesome on the Sharia, and I've got a couple of pages in my book where I talk about Sharia. And actually, I'm developing another sort of simple reader like this, talking more about commanding the right. Al wala wal bara, hating what,
just about to come to that. Yeah.
Hating what Allah hates, and a few other of those creeds that are in Reliance of the Traveler, and which is available free, by the way, on the internet. You just have to download a PDF of Reliance of the Traveler, and there you go. That's it. And writing the wrong by hand. Yeah, that's your commanding the right, forbidding the wrong. And oh no, where was it going? I kind of lost my train of thought.
You're busy developing a new book.
Oh yes, yeah. So I'm just, again, something very simple that's not that talks about these creeds, because people in the West need to know it. People in the West also need to know that there is no such thing as the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's not in there, you know.
Yeah.
It is,
and you're laughing, Usama. You're laughing. What's that?
It's in the early days. It is in the early days when Muslims are about to take over a country. They demand the people to treat them good, because that is the golden rule. But after that, throw it in the garbage can, and we're going to kill the last one of you. Yeah.
I just want to mention this verse here, that the belief is about one brotherhood. So make peace between your brothers. That's in Surah Ali Imran 3:103. But then you go into the Sharia, because the Quran is very incomplete. And also it abrogates it. It actually, the Quran abrogates, it cancels older verses or changes from one state to another. And just so you know, jihad is not a permanent state of fighting. Jihad is a permanent state of war. That's the difference. You've not declared a peace treaty, in the sense that you've never declared a truce. You're always at war, so war could break out at any moment. It's not that you are not. So you might be not fighting right now, but you could think of it as a pre-violent phase, not the lack of intent to commit violence. But look, so you are one brotherhood, make peace between your brothers. But notice, this applies to both non-Muslims and Muslims. This is the Sharia, where people have to enforce the Sharia.
Yeah.
You have to right the wrong by hand, use intimidation, assault, and force of arms. So assault by gang, if you can't do it alone, and then get friends with weapons. So I don't know how you make peace by force of arms, but apparently that's how it goes. And it does state here that commanding the right and forbidding the wrong, which is enforcing the Sharia, is the most important fundamental of Islam. And it is the mission that Allah sent the prophets to fulfill. If it were not done, then Islam itself would vanish, as we read in the Sharia. So
Right. And this is such an important what would you call it, creed to talk about, because it's not discussed. But isn't it, Lloyd, that all of those, force of arms, assault, censor, isn't that's not a, you start with one, then move to the next, then move to the next, then move
You
to the
can
next.
you can skip straight to the top or the bottom. It's not that you have to do it in that. It's a recommended sequence, but
Yes.
you can go to any step at any time. You don't have to do it in that order. You're not
It
required to.
depends. Yeah, it depends how strong you are. How many people do you have on your team? How much weapon you have on your possession? If you
Yeah,
got it, go ahead all the way. Why you wait? Why you waste
yeah,
time?
Right.
exactly.
Right, exactly. Now oh, you had a comment there that the Quran is perfect. Well,
Yeah,
in my,
that's.
I know, I think it's
He's
hilarious.
joking.
Yeah, I've got I've got 4 pages in my book just about the Quran, about, the dark verses. I take a look at the 6 early manuscripts. We talk about all the Aramaic writings that are in the Quran, all the historical anachronisms, and why do they matter? They matter because Allah is supposed to have written every word. And I just have a little paragraph on a completely preserved Quran, contradictions, and I end it with Allah's hate, and a number of verses with Allah's hate in there. So yes, I'm
Can
just
you
jealous. I'm just
can you
jealous.
get into the, yeah? Would you mind?
But
Can you get to this portion? Can you share with us more about that portion, Brother Lloyd? Can you get that slide out, and maybe we can
page
go through it a little
48.
bit?
Yeah, page 40. It starts on page 48.
Page.
Like I say, I deal with it in a very simple way,
Mhm.
just not to overwhelm people, and just to make it so. Yeah, here we go. So, we look at these manuscripts, and each one of these manuscripts is different. And none of them are complete. The Topkapi is the closest one to being complete, but even that's not complete. There's a few thousand differences. The Samarkand really is a write-off, as you both would know. It's got what, 43 surahs, and it's also one of the monumental manuscripts. It's huge. It's got 43 surahs apparently, but 18 of them aren't found in any other Quran. So really, it's an embarrassment. And the Ma'il, that's the one that's in the British Library. Petropolitanus, that's in Paris. And yes, so most of them aren't complete, so certainly it's not preferred. And the Sana, which I'm really looking forward to, Al Fadi is doing this as his doctorate dissertation. So it'll be really interesting to see what he and other scholars come out about the Sana, because it's a palimpsest, which means that there were some verses written underneath, and they were all erased. But because of the way we can read that underwriting with blue lights or something like that.
UV. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the section on that. And then I talk a little bit about how many versions, or the halves. It was 7 versions. Anyways, again, talk about it very briefly. On the next page, we talk about the earliest. On the next page is I talk about the earliest Quran. And a lot of people think that, oh, the Birmingham folio is the earliest, but it's only 4 pages, and really there's nothing Quranic about it, because they're,
It talks about the Bible effectively.
yeah, well, it's parts of 3 stories. As I have here, 7 Sleepers of Ephesus, that's from
Yeah.
521 AD. Hints about the story of the proto-evangelium of James,
And
and yeah, and then the pseudo gospel
Gospel
of
of Matthew.
Matthew. So they're um, all pre-Islamic stories, and then of course the story of Moses. But anyway, so I mentioned that. So that's
But it's
all.
interesting that these books all refer to what is either Gnostic or known to be
Yes.
non-canonical. It's very
Right.
interesting. The Quran heavily has non-canonical or Gnostic texts dating from the typically mid to late second to fourth century.
Yeah.
So it's odd that it uses late sources like that, and that.
Babylonian Talmud. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the Quran also has, and I do have it somewhere in here. The Quran also has it's pinched a lot of Saint Ephraim's, works as well in there. And there's a couple of groups. Actually, what was it? Was it David Wood? David Wood just did I think it was David, just did an interview with a fellow who showed that how many verses were actually taken from the Torah, practically straight word for word from the Torah. And I know Dr. Smith is working with a group of people. In fact, we've got a fellow from Edmonton here who's working on the project. And what they're doing is they're going through every verse and looking to see where the verses have come from. Exactly. But there's actually a couple of groups that are doing that. So these are Aramaic writings. I didn't, obviously I didn't write everything down, but I do say where some of the information has come from here. Again, just a quick paragraph. And again, most of the biblical stuff, not all of it, but most of the biblical stuff is Gnostic. It's not from the Bible. So it's not from the Bible.
Yeah. Actually, amazingly, in the Quran, there are 4 verses actually were used by Daniel. I call him Prophet Daniel. Allah's prayer, Allah's peace be upon him, was David Wood in last conference we have in Ohio. And he used these 4 verses to prove that the Bible has been corrupted. Quran 275, 278, 879, and 513, if I remember them correctly. I'm speaking from my head here, so if I'm off, it's okay. And when I went to look at the interpretation of all these 4 verses by the great scholar Al-Tabari, shocking to my bones, I found that they actually talking about another book. Another book was written by the hands of Jesus, not the Torah. They never add to the Torah. They never took away from the Torah. They got 2 books, the Torah and the other books, which obviously we call it the legends of the Jews. And amazingly, even though Muhammad rejected the writing of some of the Jewish people, which is the Talmud, the Mishnah, the what we call it's legend. It's a myth. Stories were written in a book. Well, guess what? Muhammad used the same books to write his Quran for the Muslims. You rejected something, and he used the same thing to make up your holy Quran. God help us. The level of ignorancy among Daniel and people like Daniel and the Muslim cult.
Yeah. And again, well, if we're still going through this, the next page I talk about historical anachronisms in there, and which would be the next page here. Just I mean, a God making these mistakes. I mean, a God didn't write this. That's for darn sure. Lots of mistakes.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
It's a plenty of error. I mean, literally, the books which we work on, me and brother Lloyd, on Tuesdays, it shows the errors of the Quran. It's literally one page after another page, one error after another error. There's nothing but errors in the Quran like that, which you mentioned here.
Notice there's this guy that's wandering around here in the comments, right? I'm not sure whether he is a Muslim or whether he's trolling or whether he is joking, but the simple thing is, we just looked at the Sharia. Now notice how they will ignore what is in the Sharia, don't want to talk about it, don't want to get into it, don't want to ever deal with it. And they want to take you to the Quran, which is so vague, so incomplete, so unable to explain a lot of things. They have to have tafsirs, and they need hadiths, and they need all these other texts, which the scholars spend multiple years in seminary learning so they can be an imam, so they can be a qadi, they can be whatever they need to be, right? So these scholars now spend multiple years, up to 7 years, learning the Sharia, for instance. And then you can say, well, if you look in the Quran, how does it explain, for instance, amputation? Well, there's maybe a verse or two on it. You go into the Sharia, and there's like 50 something pages in one manual alone explaining it in great detail. So they have everything you need to know in just one manual, and you can go to a second manual and there'll be more information. So there's hundreds of pages. So the Quran is one or two verses, and all of this is now explained at length in the Sharia.
Let's give example, Brother Lloyd. Let's give
So
example.
now he's trying to change the subject. Now he's trying to use just the truth. Look, I mean, I didn't have time to listen to this. Is nonsense. We don't have time to listen to this. This is so typical, right?
Yeah.
Because they need to get away from the Sharia. They can't, because that they cannot defend. It is too.
Well, I will go to the Quran, Brother Lloyd. I go to the Quran to prove the savage teaching of the word of Allah, which is practiced in Sharia. Listen, good example. The cutting of the hand of the thief. Okay, Quran chapter 5, verse 38. Allah did not say too much there, except he said, and the male thief and the female thief so cut off their hands as reward for what they have earned. It's end of the story. Now, I don't understand the details except when you go to Sharia. And in Sharia, you read scholars' interpretation how Muhammad and early companions of Muhammad and the followers at Tabi'in practice these verses, which is the perfect way to do the perfect hermeneutics interpretation to the word of Allah. So you see, if you stole an egg or something with the value of an egg, a rope or something with the value of the rope, we cut your right hand. Well, thank you so much. Now we know why Islam is a savage cult, using the Quran and Sharia, the interpretation of the Quran by so-called Muslim scholars. It's easy. We can always do that. There's nothing hard about it.
Yeah.
Actually,
right, the scholars are pretty. The scholars. Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah. Look at how many pages on that. It's just incredible.
So let's go have a look at this amputation briefly. Right. So the same reason as the limb of a sick thief is not cut off until he is in a proper habit of body is well enough to endure the amputation without risk of life. Now, Muslims will regularly tell me, no, it's meant metaphorically. It's not actually a real thing. They're saying here, without risk to his life. What do they mean by that?
Yeah.
So,
metaphorically.
Nothing in Islam. Tens of pages on this topic on amputation.
Yeah. And this is from the Hidayah, right?
Yeah.
The guides.
The Hidayah, volume 2. Yeah. So if it's metaphorical, how come it's dangerous for a pregnant woman to lose blood while pregnant, because the child would be destroyed in her womb? That's not metaphorical.
Yeah.
So, and it's just insane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is crazy. Yeah. Oh, I know the amount of writing. Well, even if we take a look at the daily prayers, right? So I have one page 36, that I briefly deal with the daily prayers, and I use a quote from Dr. Mark Dury. He was very kind to let me use it. But I think there's in Ibn Kathir, for this 7-line prayer, isn't there? I think there's about 70 pages explaining these 7 verses. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And that was one thing I really, really, really wanted to deal with, because we had an Islamic professor. Now, he taught in a Catholic school in California somewhere, which just did not make sense to me. Anyways, he was invited up by the United Church. Well, that tells you everything. And to give a lecture for 2 days on the Sharia. And he actually said the prayer in Arabic, not in English. And I stood up to refute, but by that time they were sick of me standing up talking about what I was, because I kept refuting him, and I had all the books with me. And so they wouldn't let me tell them. And I just thought, you silly people, you have just let this man insult you. It should not be said to open any, and they even said it here, the province next to me, open up their legislature to say the Arabic prayer. And I thought, you fools, you've just slammed everybody here. So more people need to know about this stuff, but again, where are you going to find these little bits of information? And so that's again why I designed this book. Oh yeah.
Yeah, people don't realize that when Muslims are allowed to do a single thing that comes out of the Sharia, then they assume that they've essentially launched a beachhead successfully, and now that territory, be it country, be it place, is now Islamic.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you allow it in a church, I believe, I believe it, so I'm not sure exactly where the references are, but I believe it says that if they, for instance, do the Bismillah in a church, then they actually deconsecrate it and they make it into a mosque.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
That's
you can see
why
with these
there's
references, they're talking of
Brother
amputation.
Louis,
There's no argument here. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you notice all the interfaith meetings in our churches, they always come in a timing where the prayer of Asr, the prayer of Maghrib, come in the middle of the meeting. So they will be speaking for an hour or so, and then we have to stop to take a moment to pray. And then they pray inside the church, turn it into a mosque, and then they meet again with the rest of the useful idiots and their sheep who do not know jack about Islam to
Right.
continue their interfaith meeting. They do that on purpose.
Yeah.
So they can literally turn our it's not churches, of course. The church is a body of believers, not a building. But
Yeah.
and these are not believers to start with. So
Yeah.
anyway, it's very important technique. That's how Muslims do their meetings in our buildings.
Right. Yeah. 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 But how do people learn about this stuff? You know, that's just it. Where do you learn all these little bits? And that's what I'm trying to do with this, with what I've done. I know it's not super detailed, but you know, you learn a little bit about all this. About
You know,
you can ask simple questions like from your book.
Yeah.
Like you could ask, where is this copper wall that Alexander the Great built?
Oh, exactly. Yeah, where is it? It should be there. It should be still standing.
You know,
Where's
where's the Quranic archaeology?
Yeah.
Has the Quran been used as a source for archaeology? The Bible had to be proven that way through archaeology, and there's more and more discoveries being made to prove the biblical tales. So where's this in the Quran? And like the Quran is so vague. It's like, the people on the left, wop bam boogie, with the people on the right, boogaloo, and then the guy from the other side of town, he was on the left of the other dude, and you're like, how is that a coherent narrative?
No, it's not.
I mean, the Bible will say Ishmael, or they'll say Job went to Patmos on a boat. There were 15 other people. The weather was as follows. The journey took 3 days. He left from this city to that city, and he met with this guy in this square, in this town, and there's details.
Yes.
The Quran is just like, and he took a boat, and when they arrived, they spoke to the other guy, and the other guy was busy, but then they spoke to the other guy's other guy, who was on the left of the other guy. Then
no detail whatsoever. Time, place, people. It's just it's literally, I can make out of it anything I want.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that's just it. It really is incoherent. I think there's only one complete story in the Quran. That's it. And there's no timeline. There's with the Bible, start at creation.
Yeah, even the story you're talking about, the story of Joseph, Quran chapter 12.
Yes.
We asked 100 questions and we never got an answer yet for years and years. I'm still waiting. And it's not like a theological, deep, hard question. It's ridiculous, easy questions. And we still do not have the answer.
And it also implies a lot of things like these stories in Egypt, where they say that the Pharaoh refused to worship Allah. You're like, there were no Muslims in that day.
No.
And there's constant assertions.
Yeah, how about Pharaoh in the end of Moses? Did he drown as an infidel and doomed it for eternity in hell? Or did he become a believer and he said, I bear witness there is no God except Allah, the God of Moses? And he became a believer. And when you read the interpretation of these verses, you can't help but to laugh. We know it is written in the Quran. Jibril heard it, and Pharaoh said it, but somehow Allah did not hear it because Jibril put the mud in his face, in his mouth, or slap him with his wing. MashaAllah, MashaAllah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
I mean,
That's
there's
for
just too
sure.
many questions, and then the stories that Muhammad wanted to kill himself once he received these stories. I mean, like that's a very odd reaction. There's just too many oddities, and Muhammad's morality, of course, when people are introduced, oddly enough, when people are introduced to Muhammad's morality, this is apparently the greatest reason that Muslims actually leave Islam once they're exposed to the morality of Muhammad.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I know I got into a huge back and forth with a fellow on X last year about, because I said Muhammad committed adultery, and he had never heard this before, and he was just absolutely up in arms. And where is that, whatever. And I thought, how can I mean, I haven't read through every single tafsir. How do I know stuff like this, but you don't? This is your religion. You should be knowing this stuff. Read it, find out for yourself. He is not somebody that I would want either of my boys to emulate, this Mohammed guy. Absolutely not at all. No.
Right.
The level of ignorance among Muslims is beyond measure. It's
Yeah.
beyond measure.
Yeah,
We
it
were
is.
speaking of Qurans a moment ago, Karan. I wanted to show this. This is from my friend's slideshow, but I got
Oh
this
yeah.
from Odon. I mean,
Oh
so
right.
Muslims aren't aware of the number of Quran variants. Let me just
Mhm.
do this again. There we
Yeah.
go. So just that everyone knows, there's supposedly this mythical Quran of Muhammad. But remember, for 20 years, this Quran was not, even though he had something like 60 scribes, apparently, 60 scribes, right, Usama?
Yeah.
It was never
Yeah.
completed. It was never
Large number. Large number.
It
Yeah.
was on rocks, on leaves, on bones,
Yeah.
scribbled on cell phones, written on the back of cigarette packs, something like that, back of a napkin.
But
Right?
Brother Lloyd, the bones I have a problem with, because in Islam, or as it is in Christian Jewish belief, bones is unclean. How can you put the word of Allah on clean and unclean dead bones?
So one has to ask these questions. Were they pagans? And then Uthman collects 20 years later. Uthman goes to Muhammad's wife and says, "Hey, do you still have those old bones, those leaves, with the verses written on it in that shoebox under your bed where Muhammad used to keep his urine?" And she goes, "Yes, I do." And he says, "Great, can I have it?" And then he has the guys compile it and recollect it. I thought they had a complete Quran with 60 scribes. What was six? Muhammad was delivering what? 0.7 verses a day. He had 60 scribes. If you were delivering an average of less than one verse per day over your prophetic career, why do you need 60 scribes who couldn't finish your book?
Yeah.
The story doesn't add up. And then, of course, but what we know is there are 45 minimum canonical Qurans. So you have now, first there were 7, then there were 10, then there were 14 canonical variants of the Quran.
Right.
Then each has 2 readers or transmitters. These readers each has 2 transmitters, which are also now considered authoritative and canonical.
Right.
So 14 plus 28 is 42. Then the Hafs Quran, which is down here, which comes from the Kufi version from Baghdad, not from Mecca, is transmitted through Asim, right? And this is a transmitter. It's not a reader. It's not one of the first canonical versions, not one of the first 7 or 10 or 14. So you've got this version down here, right? You've got the Hafs version, which is randomly chosen in what year was it? 1924.
Yes, 1924.
1924, and then revised again in 1925, and revised again in 1935. And you're like, how many revisions do you need for something that's perfectly preserved? Also, the goat that ate the Quranic verse of the stoning and the breastfeeding. I thought the Quran was perfectly preserved. Why didn't you just go to Billy or Mickey or Sammy and say, "Hey, you've remembered the Quran. Please just memorize from your memory. Let's just write this." But somehow those verses are gone because somehow they weren't perfectly preserved through perfect memory. None of this makes, so you got 45 because the Hafs version has at least 4 variants. You mentioned 7. So there's at least 4 known variants, major variants of Hafs that disagree with each other, plus the other 42 versions. So you got 45 minimum canonical Quran variants. Which one is inscribed on the tablets in paradise?
Yeah. Well, and let's not forget that part of the story is that 70 of the men who had memorized the Quran were killed in a battle, and that's why it was written down to begin with. So there were hundreds of verses apparently lost at that point, and so yeah, so I mean, it certainly isn't. And then the other thing is that Hafs, according to scholars, was originally was called a liar, and it was the Ottomans who
A
picked
liar in
this
Hadith.
Quran
He was considered a liar in
in the
Hadith.
Hadith. Yeah.
But he's good in the Quran. He only
Right.
lie in one side, but not on the other side. No.
Ah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's crazy, isn't it?
By
It's
the way,
just
in the court of law, if you lie in one case and the other attorney, the smart one, he can prove that you lied on one thing, then they throw you out of the court. You're not good for anything. I don't care how much truth you said. If I prove that you lie on one thing, you're goodbye. Your testimony, throw it in the trash can. You and
Yeah.
your testimony out.
And you
right,
should realize that roughly 10% of Muslims or so use this Warsh version, this other one here, and there
right.
are distinct differences between the two. For
Mhm.
instance, like he said versus she said. They did it versus you do it.
Mhm.
You know, group A did this to group B, group B did this to group A.
Yeah,
There are
that is
differences in these Qurans. They're not the same.
Yeah, brother Lloyd, I call this as variation, which is not that important. How about lamastum and la mastum? I was between two imams, one from Egypt and one from Morocco. Morocco used the one you talk
Warsh.
about, yeah, and we in Egypt use Hafs, and they are trying to convince the people. I'm sitting with the Americans that it's only one Quran, Holy Quran. I said, really? He said, yeah. I said, well, you grab your Quran and you grab your Quran. Let's see, is touching equal to having sex? Because la mastum is had sex with, and la mastum is touched. So the say it, look at it. La mastum have sex with, la mastum touched. When you hear it in Arabic, it sounds the same, but it's only one small tiny aleph on top of it. As a matter of fact, I learned that from Hatun. She was with me in my house in Missouri, and she said, Usama, can't you see the difference? I said, I don't see the difference. Lamastum, lamastum. She said, look close, Usama. You're Egyptian. You speak Arabic. Look close. I put my glasses on. Okay, Hatun, don't get me mad. I'm looking. Oh, lamastum, lamastum. You see, one of them is have sex, and the other one touched. So I don't know.
Not the same thing.
It's hey, one of them you die for, and the other one, well, somebody touch a woman, big deal. He become unclean, can go wash again or get
So
himself
you
clean.
touch yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, so there's huge differences in the Quran. Unbelievable.
Yeah, huge differences. And I think there used to be a really good website up, and I know there's a link, the 10 Kiryats
Yeah.
of Bridges translation or something.
Just
So it
actually,
does,
I'll read them.
Yeah, she have them in a book I saw. 10 different reading, 10 Qurans in one Quran, and there are plenty of differences between them. Yeah.
plenty of differences. Yeah.
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 This example.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Bridges translation of it. That's it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and this does highlight some of these differences, some of these contradictions. I
Mhm.
don't have any offhand, but I mean, I have covered this before, but there are some significant
yeah.
differences. She
Yeah.
did it. She was guilty. He was guilty.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I mean, these are not minor. It's like, who's guilty then? This woman or some guy? Did Group A kill Group B, or did Group B rob Group A?
Right. Yeah.
What's going on here? Yeah.
Yeah. No, there's quite a difference. That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Muslims know for sure, without any doubt, that the Quran is a perfect word of Allah, never been changed, never been corrupted, not even a dot, even though original Quran did not have any dots, or a vowel, even though the original Quran did not have any vowel. Guys, do you understand? If you can read the original Qurans we had, you be not a scholar, you be a god. I could not read it. Some of the pages you have shown in your presentation, I could not read it. I have no idea where you put the dot. How many dots you put? Where you put the vowel? Up or down?
Mm-hmm.
It's a or e, u or a or whatever. I mean, literally, you can create 10,000 Quran out of one Quran.
Right. And that's probably why there are so many variants, eh? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It makes sense. It makes sense. How you want to
Yeah.
read it, how you want to dot it, make a different complete readings. Yeah.
Yeah. But of course, Muslims just say that all the differences are simply recitations like potato, potato, um,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
boot and trunk.
So,
Yeah.
you tell a Muslim man, brother Usama touch your wife, or brother Usama had sex with your wife. I do not know if it's the same to him. I don't know how long she's gonna live if he got it the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
it's
right.
true. Both versions are true. I mean, Chris at Speaker's Corner spoke to an Egyptian scholar, said without blinking, both versions are true. Yeah, I mean, this is, look, you're never going to convince these people. They are very much invested in what they believe. The aim is to talk to those who are observing and talk to others. And also just the fact of dissent. The whole point behind censorship is to deny dissent, is to suppress people who dissent from the narrative.
Right.
Because once you introduce dissent, you break the spell of purity. There's a supposed perfection and purity there. Once you dissent, you are creating something that causes the narrative to break down. You're creating doubt in people. You're
Right.
giving others permission to also question. So
Right.
therefore, the spell that they are trying to weave starts to fail. And it is important for you to question in your own mind, and then to talk to others and to spread that message, because that prevents them from getting a stranglehold on your mind. And don't don't give them assent to the falsehood.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and well, Usama, you would know this better than I do, but isn't there a verse in the Quran that says, "Don't question"? You're not to question
Sure.
anything because you could lose everything?
101. Remember the fifth? We take a fifth here in America, five, and then 101. You remember it exactly now.
Oh,
So
okay.
do
5
not ask. Allah said, man, oh man. If Muslims ask, I promise you that verse is one of the true verses in the Quran. Because if Muslims ask, according to that verse, they'll become an infidel. And
Right.
that is true.
Well,
Yeah.
That is true.
I'll speak of this from the Sharia. I
Yes.
mean,
Yeah.
they mention actually seeking knowledge is an obligation upon every Muslim. So I want to kill a couple of birds with one stone here. The
Mhm.
meaning of this hadith, this is in the Sharia, although the hadith is not well authenticated, in other words, it is a weak hadith, it is considered true. So for non-Muslims, please be aware, Muslims are either confused, ignorant, or just lied to you. But weak hadiths are considered authentic.
Yes.
This is not something to be questioned. I can go into lots of depth on that, but not right now. But you have confirmation, as you can see here, that weak hadiths are considered true. And the basic obligation of Islam, it says, is to believe in everything brought by the Messenger of Allah with absolute conviction, free of any doubt. That is your basic obligation as a believer. You are not obliged to learn the evidence. The Prophet did not require of anyone anything but what we have just mentioned. Just believe, don't question, have no doubt. And what befits the common people and the vast majority of those learning or possessing sacred knowledge is to refrain from discussing the subtleties of scholastic theology. Don't talk
Yeah.
about the Sharia, because you will have corruption, which is
Right.
difficult to eliminate, find its way into their basic religious convictions. It is fitter for them to confine themselves to contentment with the above mentioned absolute certainty. If anything tells you you have to talk about the Sharia so that you can force corruption, which is difficult to eliminate, into their basic religious convictions, there's your reason for doing so. Any
Exactly.
comments, guys?
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. Mhm. Is this where Bill Clinton come up with his phrase "Don't ask, don't tell"?
I'm not sure, but maybe he did.
Maybe he
I
did.
think he, I think he was influenced by Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Yes,
Yeah, I think he was. Certainly, I think he was influenced by Prophet Muhammad. Yeah.
and there's no other evidence to prove that Clinton was involved in many things, which proves that he was influenced by Muhammad. You see, but we're not going to get there today. Maybe some
No,
other time.
no, I think this is a PG, PG show,
Oh,
so we won't get
even
into all of,
yeah.
all of that stuff.
What
Oh,
I like about your book, Sister Karen, is its size. A lot of people will not read a book of 400 pages or more,
No.
or 200 pages or more. We're getting to a point now where we like it short and sweet. So your
79
size, the
pages.
size of your book is good enough with the picture in it, the cartoon in it. I don't think anybody have an excuse not to at least not only read but study that small book and use it as a good start for those who want to go deep. But otherwise, you got enough information there so that you know what you're talking about in all these different subjects. So I like the idea of make it. I look at this book like Islam for Dummies. I don't know if you know. Just make it
Yes.
simple for those who do not know jack about Islam. Here is a good place to go and get some
Yeah.
information.
Well,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
isn't though that Islam for Dummies is more written by a Muslim? Like it's more from an Islamic view?
I think it's more than
Sure.
normal standard view, so I would ignore it. I'd reject it. I'd go to this. Karen, tell me about this, because you actually say you only need to read the Reliance of the Traveler, which we've just showed to understand Islam, and the Quran, the Tafsirs, the Hadith, and Sirah, interesting but peripheral. I've been saying that for years, so yes, 100%. And
Yeah.
then this interesting part here. Perhaps you want to tell us a bit more, but why you say this, and then tell us about this.
Well, years ago, actually before I found your show, I don't know why someone was talking about reliance, the comment about reliance of the traveler. Well, I ordered the book, and I read through it and thought, oh my gosh, this makes far more sense, far easier to read than the Quran, because I had been trying to read the Quran. I mean, I got interested in Islam in the early 2000s, and it's, I would pick up the Quran. You can't read it all. I can read a book, a novel in a day, but the Quran took me months to get through it because I just oh, it's such a slog.
And you suffer. And you suffer during this month. I understand. Go ahead.
Oh my gosh, it was horrible. Anyways, but when I bought the Reliance of the Traveler, I thought, oh my gosh, this has everything. It's got maybe not every verse in the Quran in there, but it just explains everything. The references, as you've shown, because when you go into different chapters or different things, you've got the ruling of the scholars. It has references to the tafsirs, references to hadith, and references to the Quran. So that's all you need is just that one book. Really is
Yeah.
Reliance of the Traveler, and at least you can read it and it makes sense. And so
But this is
that's
the
why I
trend.
said that.
I, yeah, I have to correct you. I hate to say that to you. Even the Reliance of the Traveler, the Arabic translation is not
Oh,
accurate. They lied in
they
their English translation, unless you know
Yeah,
Arabic.
but it's
And
still decent. It's still a lot of it is still pretty bad.
yeah,
yeah.
but the last of there's other Arabics there. They will not translate. Period. Notice if you go through it, you see a paragraph in Arabic, no English, or a
I-
long Arabic, short English. Like hello, how
Yeah.
can you make all these words in these few sentences in English? So
Yeah, no, you're right
it is
there. I mean, all English translations are corrupted now. I mean, except for your book, but except for your Quran. But yeah, they're all corrupted. But at least I think the Reliance of the Traveler is, it brings in all of the Quran
it is
tafsir.
true. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, Reliance of the Traveler give you all what you need in one book written by them, even though they lied.
Even though they
And
lie.
yeah, you cannot have any knowledge from the Muslim, except you have to expect it must be mixed with lies, because if you
Yeah.
take lies out of Islam, nothing left.
Yeah,
Nothing
that's
left.
right. Absolutely. And well, and I have these little boxes sprinkled throughout the book. Just, little this did you know there is no verse in the Quran that says the Quran is the word of Allah. And the jinns appear to be the speaker in Surah 72. And yeah, so that's just a little, just a
Little bits of
point of interest.
information.
Yeah, yeah. And
So
there,
Islamophobia. Yeah. So in terms of the book,
Oh, you
these
wrote
little
a
boxes.
chapter about me, Islamophobia.
Well,
yeah,
part of the whole point of the channel is to increase the levels of Islamophobia, because Islamophobia and bacon are the ways that you can overcome Islam, right? Because guys, I do need to express to you that if Islam takes over, you will no longer have any of that tasty Canadian bacon.
I
And
know.
so this is your last chance to fight back with truth and knowledge. So the
That's
Quran
right.
mentions the word Mecca only once, but Usama, isn't it the word Becca?
It's not actually Mecca. I hate to say that. It's Becca, not Mecca. And the Wadi of Buka, the valley of weeping, that's a biblical word. I think
Yeah.
that's what Muhammad was talking about. There's no Mecca there. Okay. I know everybody say Mecca is mentioned only one time. It was never mentioned at all, period. Mecca is not there.
Right.
Mim kaf he is not bih kaf he. They're two different words.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Usama, listen, the word Usama is not the same word bijama. They're two different words, okay? But don't you dare call me Obama. You can call me Muhammad, but don't
You
call
know,
me Obama.
Aaron, you touch on this. This is something that annoys me because it does crop up on a semi-regular basis. Muslims often cite Matthew 26:39, where Jesus fell on his face and prayed that he was a Muslim. This is how Muslims pray, right? But then they
Yes.
also may ask, how could he be praying to himself, right? But then again, of course, Christians tend to pray. Jesus would pray seated, standing. He would pray lying
Yeah.
down. He would pray while walking. He would pray while in the water. He would pray while on a boat. There was, it's
He was praying while on the cross, dying, standing up, nailed, stretched, hand and
yeah.
feet, man.
Yeah.
Jesus, there's no set standard. And
No.
prostrate is not the same as trying to get yourself a little stamp over here
Yeah.
with your ass up in the air.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah.
Because the
Muslims
whole
do it with the rock,
prostrate
man.
means lying flat on the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. It's crazy. Yeah. So I do have a few of these polemics through there as well. Yeah, just to put up some arguments against what Muslims say, because Muslims do bring these things up, and lots of times, never mind, a lot of secular people wouldn't know the answer to this, and they would say, "Oh, yeah, is that right? Oh, he prayed just like Muslims." Well, no.
Yeah. No, I think one of the nice things is you cover so many of these you touch on so many of these little things, and you're giving people preparation to understand these are some of the polemics that you will face. You're giving them at least a resource to begin answering
Yeah.
these polemics, to offer some kind of intelligent rebuttal, or at the very least, you're offering other polemics that you can use right back. And then, of course, there's so many different topics. Is there any particular topic or two you want to touch on?
Well, let's talk about, let's go down to the Chinese sources, because not too many people are talking about the Chinese sources. So it's down a bit farther.
Okay. Just give me one sense. You speak here, one moment, you just speak here of the pillars of Islam.
Oh, okay.
I just want to tell people, everyone, these are the 5 pillars of Islam.
Right. Protecting the Christmas markets. Yeah.
Just so you guys know, these are the 5 pillars of Islam, and you're going to be seeing a lot of this happening right now in Europe, at the very least. So if you need a picture that expresses 1,000 words about what Islam is, well, here you go.
Here you go. Yes. Yeah, that's a good one.
These are the 5 pillars of Islam.
Yeah.
So you said the Chinese. Where was that?
It's down a bit farther. Chinese. Oh,
46.
there it is. 46, page 46. Yeah, there you go. So
Yes.
this here is an image that was actually in the tomb of the Tang court emperor, and they had painted. Now the fellow on the far left, Dashi, that's what the Chinese called the Arabs who started visiting their court in 637 or 651. I think it was no, just a minute. I've got to, was it 48?
In the book, we can go there.
Yeah, anyways, it was around that time. And that's what they looked like. So did this does he look Arab? Does he look like a Muslim?
He looks Mongol. He looks Kazakhstani, something like that. It
Yeah,
doesn't look Arab. This looks like
exactly.
someone from the Stans.
Right. And the thing is about him is that they started visiting during during the Tang court, and it was when Uthman, it was supposedly one of the four rightly guided caliphs, when he was
Wrongly guided.
yeah, the wrongly guided, when he was in supposedly running the whole when he was the caliph. Now, what's really interesting is that the Tang court kept extremely detailed records. They, as you can see from the paintings, they drew what the envoys looked like. They kept records of every gift that they gave. They kept records of the religion, who the leaders were, how they were governed, what their laws were like. And they asked all of these detailed questions. And so the Arabs, the Chinese, as I'll just quickly read here, the Chinese accounts described, they called them Taziks. Okay, they called them the Taziks, and Dashi might be like an alliteration of Tazi.
But doesn't that sound like Tajikistan, Kazakhstan?
I
Absolutely.
said you look like a
Turkmenistan?
Turkish, Brother Lloyd. It looked to me like a Turkish more than anything else.
Yeah, yeah.
That's also true.
Not Arabs. Maybe
Not
that's where the Turkish, that whatever name word you give us to us from the Chinese writings. What did you call them again?
Well,
Turazak?
well, these are, yeah, Taziks. Chinese called them Taziks, and the first people that kind of came were so the Taziks' rise was a political rebellion. It had nothing to do with there you go. It had absolutely nothing to do with religion. It was a political rebellion, and anyways, like I say, in 651. There were 37 Arab envoys visiting China until almost 800. So they saw the Umayyad rule and they saw the Abbasid rule, and they noted that once the Abbasid came in, the envoys had different stories about their start. Chinese sources do not mention Mohammed, do not mention Islam, do not mention Muslim, do not mention Quran. And they don't mention Uthman or any of the other rightly guided caliphs whatsoever. So the earliest existing, as it says here, is the Tongdian, which was compiled in 801 AD, which is close enough to the last visit of the Arabs. So that's existing. That's a contemporary writing from the time, and they don't mention this. They don't mention the standard Islamic narrative at all, which is curious, because by 800 it should have been, if it had been true, the standard Islamic narrative, it would have been firmly entrenched and it would have been told to the Chinese, and it isn't. They don't mention Mecca, nothing, none of that is mentioned at all. And the writer, actually, this book, if you go right up to the very top, the book Jeffrey Kotick has just done, he did one a book. This is all just from chapter 8, and so I've taken this from his book. Jeffrey Kotick. The book is available as a free download, and you can also buy the book, which I've done as well.
Okay.
But
I need to get a copy then.
yeah, you need to get a copy. And so it's pretty interesting. And yeah, it's pretty interesting. And they don't mention a Mohammed until quite a bit later. But again, there were no vowels, right? So we get into this. Is it Mahmed? Is it a title? Because they don't really say that, the leader of the well, they don't call them Muslims. The leader of the Arabs' name was Mohammed, right? They use the Mahmed. So it's just kind of interesting. Just it's kind of an interesting point here, which just casts a lot of doubt on the standard.
It's interesting that early Islamic scholars would actually state that, as far as they can tell, Islam started in Iran.
Yes.
And you find that the you have like the Quran is being edited as an Abbasid. I mean, the vowelization we spoke of earlier, all the vowels being added to the Quran. This is a project happening in under the Abbasids in Baghdad, not in Mecca.
Right. Right.
And
Well,
and then also all of these tafsirs are coming from Turkmenistan, Baghdad,
yeah.
Iran. It's not coming from Mecca.
Some other country beside Mecca and Medina. Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing in here. So and they even talk about the Tazak originates from an Iranian word and is also linked to the Syriac. Jeffrey says Taye. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and the Chinese refer to the Arab leader as kings, not caliphs.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting. And then, as we know, by the mid-8th century, once the Abbasids come in, they start instituting different rules.
Maybe what do you think if somebody says he misunderstood what Khalifa is and they thought him to be a king?
Well, that could be it too. Yeah, that could be. Yep. But still, by the mid-8th century, once the Abbasids come in, they do Friday prayers. It's monotheism, which we know it was monotheism. And some of the Islamic customs start to be brought in. And but they still don't call them Muslims. They don't call the religions Islam. They don't talk about the Quran. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting. Anyways.
I know Mal's spoken about this at length. He might be in the chat. He was here earlier, but he
Oh,
spoke
yeah.
about this at length. Mal's actually covered this at length on his channel.
Yes,
it
he
is
has.
fascinating, and it is just there's so much negligence from scholars in openly discussing these issues, and obviously there's a threat to them if they do. I mean, to life and limb, but also funding,
Yeah.
and such, and prestige, and loss of the ability to travel to nice hotels in Qatar, for instance.
Yeah. 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 No, I think this is an important thing to know. And the Chinese have been writing for thousands of years. So I don't think they would make mistakes. Well, they could. I mean, obviously they could make mistakes, but they wouldn't get all of this wrong, is
Yeah.
what I'm saying. They wouldn't get all of it wrong.
I mean, this is contemporary, so it should be accurate.
Absolutely.
It's a contemporary resource. It's primary.
Yeah, right. And the book, it's contemporary. The book is contemporary. So the writings are contemporary. So they wouldn't have it shouldn't be too wrong, too far off the mark. Anyways, that's something to keep up. And then we went over that one. And I think the other thing that I think is really important for people to realize, let's go to page 40, is now this information that I've got here on page 40 and 41. Again, I didn't come up with this. This is Dr. Mark Dury from Australia, who kindly let me copy all of this and put it in my book, because I thought it was really important to put in something about this Abrahamic fallacy, because we all don't believe, we're all 3 Abrahamic religions. No, we're not. We don't believe in exactly the same things. So Dr. Mark Dury has gone through the Quran and taken a look at it and compared it to what the Bible says and the different meanings of it. So I think this is really important. I actually sent my book to Donald Trump, and it wasn't returned. It was delivered because I wrote a little note on it when I sent it from Amazon and said, please read, page 40 on the Abrahamic fallacy. And whether he did or not, I don't know. I never heard back.
Mention one thing before you go further. For the audience, just that the efforts you make, you just never know when it's going to bear fruit. You never know who it touches, who it resonates with, and how it affects them. So don't be afraid to take that step. Do something. Do what you can. Don't think of what you can't do. Just do what you can, what's within your reach. I'll give you an example. I've mentioned before, a few years ago, I was approached by a group and I was asked to help them with some research on the Muslim Brotherhood, which I did. And I wrote a couple of documents. The one was how the kind of structures that they use, the kind of organizations they work through, how they
Right.
disperse themselves, right? And we focused heavily on Canada and United States. And then the other one was we were trying to follow the money, follow the organizational structure. And the other was I was asked to make a simple presentation on how the Muslim Brotherhood operates, but to make it accessible, right? Not overly complex, make it accessible and explain their
Yeah.
intent, explain their methodology. And I wrote, I think it was 19 pages, and I've presented it on the channel, but I did it for this group. And this was part of a package. I'm sure they edited it, they would have modified it, but they were doing, they were making great efforts within Europe, but they were very successful in the US to do lobbying to get the Muslim Brotherhood banned in the US. And I mean, this started 4 or 5 years ago, right? So it's not an overnight process.
No.
And to repeat something you would have heard before if you watched the channel, I spoke about this the last couple of weeks. You know now that, and they were lobbying with Ted Cruz, right? The senator from Texas. Now, you know that the Muslim Brotherhood has just been banned about a month ago in Texas. They're about to be banned, I believe, in Florida. And Donald Trump is now considering banning the whole of the Muslim Brotherhood. So without overstating my own contribution, I'd like to think that I had a viable and valuable contribution here, that part of my work went to a sister group that passed it on to the US government that has now effectively done what they have set out to do.
Yeah, you never
So,
know.
so you never know. So the
Exactly.
work that I've done, I believe, has contributed. At least I hope it has. And I
Yeah.
think I can be proud of that I've contributed to work that has had a positive effect. And so it's been years in the making. It's not an overnight process, but look, just keep moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what we're all doing in our own ministry. I mean, Usama, your ministry is absolutely amazing. And what you're doing is just got so much value.
Thank you, sister. I remember when after the first thing I did after I print the Quran years ago, you look at the dates of the publishing. We send a copy to every senator, to every congressman, to every governor, to every the Supreme Justices. And I mean, we hundreds and thousands of copies went out. I did not make any profit from the first print. It was literally lost money financially. And sadly, I got sick because some of the Democrats would send my book back. And with a note, we do not receive gifts from people out of our district. I said, are you kidding me? You mean if the Saudis send you, it was King Fahd at the time. If the Saudi King Fahd, send you a copy of the Quran, you're going to insult him and send him the Quran back to Saudi Arabia? I dare you to do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, and time goes by, and then I receive a picture from a friend of mine who just happened to pray for Mr. Donald Trump 7 years ago or 8 years ago, who was in his area. And then he sent me a picture and he said, look at the hand. And he was shaking Mr. Trump with his right hand, and he gave him my Quran in the left hand, and Mr. Trump is taking the Quran with his left hand. So I got a picture of my Quran, which you hold a minute ago, Sister Karen, in the hand of Mr. Trump. Now, did he read it? I have no idea. Did it affect anything about any of the decision? Maybe this have nothing to do with it, but who knows? Maybe he gave it to somebody and said, hey, read that book for me. Tell me what's in the Quran. I mean, Thomas Jefferson read the Quran over 20 years ago, and here's Trump have my Quran in his hand. And he maybe never even read a page in it, but maybe he read the whole thing. Only God knows. You have no clue.
So we never know. He might have given it to someone. Read this, have a look at it, tell me if there's something worth considering for policy.
Yeah.
So and he's well aware of what's happening in the UK. I think the statements they've made, and now maybe they're going back to these resources and they're going to, hey, maybe these people are telling us we need to listen. Let's go back to people who are talking to us, and we never know how this is going to help someone who's going to take a step that's going to be important. So don't be afraid to play your part, even if it's small. You might not know it, you might not see it, but it could be critical, so.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe he had an aide who read the book. I don't know. I hope so, but
let's hope. Yeah.
Let's hope, Yeah.
I mean, I listened to Sebastian Gorka talk about Islam on occasion, and I'm not exactly overwhelmed. I'm disappointed with the level of expert knowledge, and I'm like, some of these top policy experts are not exactly top experts.
Yep, that's true. That's true. Anyway, it was fun meeting with you, Sister Karen, and look at your material and your writing. Man, that is a deep book, Brother Lloyd. That's not a small book. That's a deep book.
Yeah,
I mean, look at all the information we have in it.
yeah,
God, I need to look at every page in that book.
yeah.
I'm gonna read it.
Also,
Whole book.
people need to take away that Abraham is mentioned 102 times, and there are maybe 4 mentions of Muhammad in the Quran. But Abraham was a Muslim, like Jesus, Mary, Joseph, Abraham, David, you name it. They were all Muslims. They were all worshiping Allah. They were all practicing Islam until they somehow forgot, and then they started practicing Christianity. And also, they teach that Abraham hated the Christians and the Jews.
Yeah.
Father of the Jews hated them. This makes no sense. There was no Christians at the time, but Abraham apparently hated the Jews. So people need to be aware of how toxic and corrupting this.
I did not know, Brother Lloyd. I did not know that Moses was Jesus's uncle until I read the Quran. I was told that strong foundation for Christians, but we did not know it yet.
It's the most painful thing to read, man. It is the most
Oh,
painful thing to read.
yeah, yeah. No, I know it's crazy. It is crazy.
Yeah. How
God
did Abraham teach the religion of Muhammad if Muhammad hadn't been born yet? And
No,
where's
no,
the
but listen, Lloyd, when it comes to Abraham, the Quran is very clear. Abraham was not a Jew because Moses came after Abraham. Abraham was not a Christian because Isa came after Abraham. But Abraham was a Muslim, even though Muhammad came after Moses and Jesus. I'm trying to think how this happened.
But I've got the. Oh, sorry. There. What is it? The story is that Muhammad was sent to bring them back on the straight path. You see, because everybody had strayed so far from the original religion given to Abraham. So you've got it totally mixed up there. Yes.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah.
Smash
I like
Allah,
it.
smash Allah. Yes, I like
Sorry.
that.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. But I like it because when you talk about Muhammad, it is a straight path. Tariq mustaqim. But when we talk about Jesus, the straight. Not a straight, but the straight.
Straight path, yes.
الطريق المستقيم.
Yeah, but is Muhammad really straight after the whole Al-Zud thing came out? Can we really say he was straight?
In the eye of the Muslim. There are many ways look straight to the people who are crooked eye. But obviously he was not. No, sir.
So, yeah. So for everyone who hasn't seen the book, let me just go to the table of contents. It's a really good description of Islam. It is something that anyone can take from and use it as quotes, use it on social media. It is not complex. You don't need prior understanding. You don't have to go read the Quran to understand this. It's explained really well. And I know that Karen spoke to numerous people, I know, including myself, while writing this. So she's got the best sources and she's distilled them for simple people, right? Or she's made them simple for anyone to understand. So be you a teacher, be any educator, I would recommend this very strongly. So you have, I mean, like the satanic verses, I mean, that's Muslims hate that story. And that's starting to disappear off the internet, just like hadiths are starting to disappear off the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's lots of interesting stuff here that, so there's everything you'd need to know about Islam and to combat the propaganda, as well as to ask questions. Just, you know what, even if you don't have all the answers, just ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
Just ask the questions. And just because that alone gets people to go, wait, hold on, yeah, I never thought of that. And it causes doubt and it breaks the spell.
Great.
Yeah. Anything else that you want to specifically cover, Karen, that would be important to go through? This is brilliant stuff. Yeah?
Not specifically. I mean, we could spend hours on this, but yeah, just the most important thing is I cover everything briefly, but I think with enough good information. Like this one here, Muawiyah, that's his coin. Well, he was an Arab ruler starting in 640, and he took he was the, yeah, there's the cross. He's holding the cross. And plus at the bottom of the page, on a dam, I think it was a dam, he has a cross again. Well, he was the ruler from what, about 650, and then he was the most important. Then there were a couple of smaller rulers, then Abmalik. But look at another cross. So you're telling me that this Arab leader was a Muslim? No.
You know, it's
No.
amazing. I read about Muawiyah's sister Karen years in Egypt. I have
Oh yeah.
no idea. He never told us that he had anything to do with cross.
No.
They never told Muawiyah. We get sick and tired of hearing about the man, but we never know that he was somehow have some tie to a cross on the money or on the writings.
Yeah. No, I know. And same with the,
Why do he hide these facts from us?
I just got sent a coin, an image of a coin by someone. I think it's Muawiyah's son or something like that. And he's got a Hebrew, no, scratch that. I think I may have it wrong. It's a different symbol, but it looks like the Star of David, but it's not. I just remembered. No, so scratch that for now. No, scratch that.
All right.
Yeah. And I mean, the rock inscriptions are, well, some of them are being destroyed. The one that was in Taif, which is just up on the one up to the left there. I think that's the one. On Taif, which is just up on the plateau, just above Mecca. It talks about so it's a 7th century rock inscription. It's now destroyed. The Saudis destroyed it because it talks about that the masjid in Mecca was built about 700. So, yeah.
Didn't you love that, Deloitte? When some archaeological discovery destroys the belief or the nonsensical lies who've been lied to for years, discovered, they destroy it. They don't dig deep to find out more. No. Yeah, anything goes against the narratives which we learn all our life, just get rid of it. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Destroy it.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. And then I don't have it in here, but I might on the follow-up book, because there are some other things with rock inscriptions I want to include. But look at the rock inscription from, what was it, 523, somewhere around there in Yemen. Again, that's been destroyed. And it talked about a Jewish king who was given the title MHMD, Mahmed. And that's on, but it talks about the Jewish king. And so he's being called Muhammad. Yeah. So I mean, that was destroyed too. It was pretty interesting. But, if one of the things that I find, and of course, Muslims don't think about this, but they have to stop and think when you bring it up to them, is Mecca, which is just, look at all the skyscrapers, look at all the building that's been going on. And look at all the tunnels they've put underneath everything so that they can move traffic, because there's just millions and millions and millions of people there, especially during Hajj. But what have they found?
I know. They found sand and they found rocks.
That's it. That's what they found. They haven't found anything. Now, if you were to dig skyscrapers and tunnels in, well, I'm going to say Poland, in Egypt, in
there's so much history in Egypt beyond your imagination. Yeah.
Unbelievable. All of these cities, if you were to put all the amount of building that went into
the amount of digging we have in Israel is less than 5% of the land of Israel, and hundreds of thousands of archaeological evidence for the Bible. And we only dig 5% of the land.
Yeah. I know, it's absolutely amazing. So Mecca is what was the center of world trade, or of the world at that time. And it was also the first city on earth. Like, come on.
From Adam to everybody else. Indeed. MashaAllah, MashaAllah.
Yeah. No, so I mean, the nice thing is you've taken all of these questions, all of these these issues, and you've arranged them very simply, very neatly for anyone to look at, and just it's overwhelming that there's a problem, and they don't have to dig through copious academic resources or dense materials. It's all in
Yeah.
one. It's all
One book.
together, and it's
One
very
book. Well,
thought provoking.
how many pages is that book, Sister Karen? The total pages?
Total pages, I think about 80.
79 pages,
Yeah.
including
Man,
cover.
But
that's very
but about 16 of them are endnotes and the bibliography. So
oh,
and what
and
I try to do is most of the topics I just try to deal with on one page. Like
yeah,
I try to keep it down so that you just pick up the book and you can just say, oh, okay, here it is. Open on this book. There's 2 pages on comparing Jesus and the
yeah,
Islamic Jesus.
I-
You know,
yeah.
oh, 1 page on Muhammad's ascension. You know,
And pictures, yeah, pictures also take some space in the book. It's not a very large book, but it have lots of information. This is very neat, very
yeah.
very neat. Yeah,
Yeah, unintimidated, a really easy way to get into it, and yeah. So because I want people to learn about Islam, we have to in the West. We have to learn more about Islam, and
absolutely.
we need to talk more about it, which is starting to happen, and we need to learn more.
Hmm.
You're absolutely right.
Someone once at work. It was a long story. We were talking about terrorism and problems in Europe, and you know, when I then they no, they were saying something, and I said, well, but then we're dealing here with Islam, and he said, don't talk to me about religion. And you're like, this is a supposedly intelligent person who's now suddenly taking offense, but you'd think they would realize that Islam is a theocracy. We're not
Yes.
talking about religion. There's no separation from politics. So yeah, but so we have to learn to overcome these objections, deal
Over
with
yeah, over 80% of Islam is politics. Less than 20% is religion. Bill wrote. My friend Bill wrote in his book, and I could not believe it because I never thought that way. But the more you dig into Islam, it is more of Sharia than
Yeah.
religion,
Yeah.
which is loss. It is loss. God is good. God good. Sister Karen, I believe this book is important, and I believe if people just start with your book, they will dig deep, and they will be more the theologian or those who would like to defend the Christian faith and the Christian Jewish morals which we live by in the West. But once again, a very important verse which I love to quote. It's Hosea 4:6. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And that is a problem we have in the West. As we start in the beginning of our broadcast today, the headmaster of the school is a Christian, but he have no knowledge about Islam. And that's
No.
why he allowed the students to watch videos in
Yeah.
our public school about the peaceful Islam, the loving and the peaceful Islam. And I hope and I pray that when I meet with him, that we can change this around, that
Yeah.
this school will never teach this garbage anymore. So if we don't know the truth about Islam, even from a book of 80 pages, any lies will go. Any lies will go. I don't care what it is, because you don't have knowledge. Lack of knowledge equals destruction, equal accepting the lies which the Muslims would love to teach in the West.
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Corin, let's do early in the new year that cartoon series of yours. Let's maybe
Okay.
finish that. That'll
I
be
should
great.
have it finished by then. Yeah. Okay.
That'll be great because I mean, this is really it's a very fascinating book because it sparks so many different topics, and you can dig in depth if you want, but it gives you a great place to start. Like the question is, where do I start? Well, start with the book. You need to send me the links again so that I need to find them on the
Oh,
older
sure.
episode. To just drop them in the chat. I will pin the comment and I'll put them in the description later so
Sure.
that we can send people to the right location to get the book. But if you want to know where to start, the book is a great place to start. It understands your fears, it understands the complexity of the topic, and it just merges all of these sources into a nice, simple, easy to read, step-by-step guide that you can go through and learn so much. You can understand the problems and you can actually give answers to people and help others as well.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, thank you very much. It was great chatting with you guys, and I'll stick the links on there, and of where people can get the book, and it's on Amazon everywhere. But yeah.
Well,
And I
thank you
think
so It
Yeah.
was fun talking with you today. And I cannot wait to see cartoon because, see, I don't speak English. I just like to watch pictures. If
Good.
you have a cartoon, that's what I like. No
Duck,
English.
Duck
My
is a
English.
cartoon anyway.
I like cartoon. Listen, Tom and Jerry is still my favorite. I still watch it. Black and white. Tom and Jerry. MashaAllah.
Yeah. No, I think cartoons will be good for lots of people just don't read, but cartoons are good. Yeah.
Well, I cannot wait to be invited for the cartoon broadcast. Please invite me.
Okay. I'll do that. Yeah, thanks so much.
We'll hold
God
it on
bless
a
you all.
Tuesday instead of my usual
Oh,
torture
no.
session.
Leave me alone.
Okay, so hold on. We're being asked what is the name of the book. So let me bring it up. So you guys just, I showed it in the beginning of the show. Islam in a nutshell. A simplified resource for teachers, pastors, and parents, for secular learners as well. What are Islam's beliefs? Compare Yahweh, Allah, Jesus, and Muhammad, the Trinity, the Tawhid, heaven and paradise, daily prayers. Learn about the Abrahamic and common word fallacies, history as found on the ground versus the narrative, Sharia, and more. Right? So, and this is Karen Thompson.
Ahlan.
Sorry?
You see this word written in Arabic. Ahlan wa sahlan. Welcome, man. I can read that. Ahlan wa sahlan.
Right. Yeah. So it's Islam in a nutshell. And that's the title, right, Karen?
That's the title, Islam in a Nutshell, a simplified resource. Because there is another Islam in a Nutshell, but it's not as if you remember the blue background and Mecca, the big clock tower there. Yeah, Islam in a Nutshell. You'll find it.
Islam in a nutshell. And yes, I can't even spell. Plus Karen. Oh, good grief.
Well, you know what's happening is what I've found is, are you on Amazon.com?
Yes, there it is. That's
the
first entry that came up. Yeah, so I added plus Karen. But there it is. Islam in a nutshell. The very first one here, not the ugly purple one.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, that beautiful picture of Mecca.
Yeah. So that's the one. K.L. Thompson. Okay, that's why I didn't find it. K.L. I should have made it Karen full name.
Right.
Yeah. K.L. Thompson, Islam in a nutshell, with this cover. And it's really excellent. I highly recommend it. And you have it in paperback? You have it in PDF as well? Is it available as a...
No, I don't have it. I did have it for a little while on Patreon as a PDF. And because people weren't buying it, they deleted it from my Patreon. So I just found that out. So I'm going to have to upload that as well.
Okay.
And
yeah, that's fine. There are other places.
I was going to do an ebook for it, but because of all of the images, it's really difficult to set up. And with my move, I haven't been able to finish it.
You know what, Karen? I know someone who's a publisher. I will talk to them and maybe hook you up, and because they are very good at all of this, doing the whole online publishing. That's what they do.
Okay.
So talk to me tomorrow. I will speak to him. So just remind me, and I'll hook up the two of you. He's based in the UK. I will have a chat with him.
Okay. Alrighty. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you very much. It was really enjoyable talking with you guys about this. Yep. I really enjoyed that. And I mean, both of what you guys are doing on Tuesdays and other days is just phenomenal. And I mean, showing the ridiculous of this book is just...
It is not ridiculous if you are an infidel. If you are a true Muslim, it is not a ridiculous book. You have to respect Allah and Muhammad. Says a Shahada.
You know what? It is so foolish. Ridicule is a very powerful... Ridicule has brought down empires. Ridicule has brought down tyrants. And this thing is so ridiculous, it should be ridiculed. It shouldn't be treated with great respect as if it's some kind of great intellectual achievement or some kind of great theological achievement. It's laughable, and we should laugh at it.
Yeah.
We should.
Yeah.
God is good. God's good. Appreciate you guys, and a wonderful time. Look forward for the cartoon broadcast, Lord's willing.
Okay. Yeah. That's good.
No, thank you, Usama. Thank you, Karen, very much. God bless everyone. Please go out and get the book, right? Islam in a Nutshell by K.L. Thompson. It's going to be well worth it. It's very good reading. So thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you.
Until
Okay.
next time.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.